Welcome to Lesson 6-4. In this lesson, we're going to work with rational exponents. What that means is exponents that are fractions. With a fraction, we have a numerator. The numerator is going to tell us what the power is. And we have a denominator. The denominator is going to tell us what the root is. And what I mean by that, if I had x to the 1/5 power, that means that I have the fifth root of x. The numerator is 1, so it's x to the first, and the root is 5 because my denominator is 5. If I had x to the 1/2 power, that's going to give me the square root of x. When there's no number here, you can just assume it's a 2 for 1/2. So let's look at a few problems. The first one I have is the cube root of 125. Because it was to the 1/3 power, the 3 is my root. This one I can type in the calculator, and it comes out as 5. Here I have the 3 to the 1/2 times 75 to the 1/2. That would give me the square root of 3 times the square root of 75. In a previous lesson, we learned that with the square root, you put both numbers under the radical, multiply, which is the square root of 225. I can type that in the calculator, and it comes out as 15. One more problem. It doesn't matter if you have two numbers you're multiplying, 3, 4, or 5 numbers. If they all have the same power, all of those are to the 1/3 power, which means it's a cube root, so I can put them under the same sign. That's 12 times 45 times 50. This gives me the cube root of 27,000, which is equal to 30. All of those I could type in the calculator and get a whole number. If you use a calculator and it's a decimal, you're going to have to do your factor tree and pull out like groups. Write a different type of problem. We're going to write the expressions in radical form. We're going to go from a fractional exponent into a radical. The denominator is equal to the root of my expression, and the numerator is going to be the power. So I see I've got a 3 for the denominator. That gives me the cube root, x, with the power of 4. Or I could write it as the cube root of x in parentheses to the 4th power. Let's try one now that has a decimal involved. My first step would be to rewrite that decimal as a fraction. 1.5 is the same as 3/2. Now it gives me a denominator and a numerator. So a cubed, numerator is my power. Denominator is a 2, so it's the square root. Or I could do the square root of a cubed. Either answer is acceptable. Let's try one more. 2y to the 1/3 power. Both the 2 and the y are in parentheses, so they are both to the 1/3 power, which means they are both the cube root, and I can put them together under one radical sign. Now let's work the other way. Let's start with a radical expression and change them to an exponent. The root will be your denominator, and the power will be your numerator. Denominator is 4, numerator is 3. This makes this b to the 3/4 power. Right, let's look at another example. 5ab cubed. Because the 5ab are all in parentheses, then they are all going to be to the power. 3 is your numerator, and 4 is your denominator. One more example. If they are not in parentheses, that means they are not both to the squared. They're both under the radical 3, so they're both to the 1/3, but y has a numerator of 2. So I'm going to split these up. This will be 2 to the 1/3, y to the 2/3. And that concludes this portion of Lesson 6.4.